My name is Benedict. Welcome to the sports segment here on Pulse. And we've got to talk about Isaac Dugbe. Devastating defeat it was for the Ghanaian boxer over the weekend against Emmanuel Navarrete. So what it means is that he's lost his WBO Super Bantamweight title. My colleague Mensando is in the studio to help me dissect the issues. Hans, I'm sure you watched the bout, and before the bout, you wrote a very nice article, which I want us to start on that note. It was a very nice article, and I'm sure you were hoping to see Dugbe defend the title.
Yeah, absolutely. Because of the fact that he stated an ambition to become Africa's first boxing pay-per-view star, and I essentially detailed what he was going to take, some of the things that he needed to do. But you know, that said, a defeat doesn't mean that that dream is impossible. No matter how thin the possibility of that happening was always. He can bounce back. He can still be able to achieve that dream. Yeah. It's still a small possibility, but it's achievable. And so it doesn't really matter within the scheme of things. He can still go out there and realize that dream.
Well, he's very young, and he has to take a clue from what happened to Joseph Agbeko in the IBF division, where he lost the title to Yoni Perez and came back to reclaim the title. But looking at Isaac Dugbe, I'm sure it came to you as a shock.
Yes, I mean, I was shocked. That sums up how I felt immediately after the bout, or you know, in the middle rounds to the final rounds of the fight, because I had reviewed several fights of Emmanuel Navarrete, and knowing Isaac Dugbe, I felt that there was only one sticking point. That had to be the reach of Navarrete. And in all the fights that I reviewed, he wasn't using it to devastating effect, if you like. He wasn't using it as well as he was supposed to use it. And so I felt that Dugbe had an advantage in that regard, because all he needed to do was to close that gap and ensure that he negated the reach. But he did that brilliantly in the first round, and from the second round, we didn't see it again. Essentially, you saw a distance of what is between you and I. Yeah. And also meant that every time Navarrete extended his arm, he hit a target in Isaac Dugbe. And that is why I felt that he failed. Also, I think that there were moments where he was shocked by the sheer amount of violence that was coming his way. He didn't expect Navarrete to be that intense, to give him that much pressure. And those were moments where he looked at his corner for a plan B, for inspiration, and
there was no plan B.
It was not forthcoming. There was no plan B. His father, who doubles as his trainer, actually mentioned that the plan was to go out there, rely on his power, and take out Navarrete before the fifth round. And when that did not happen, it meant that there was no plan B. It's reminiscent of what we saw with Mike Tyson, where he comes in and the focus is one, to knock his man out. And when that doesn't happen by the fifth round, it means that he was likely to lose. And I hope and pray that they are going to find a plan B, because look, the thing about boxing is that when one person finds a plan to beating you, all other boxers are going to follow that template. And so you need to find a plan B. And it's also important that, and I don't think they did that they looked at Navarrete, looked at his strength, looked at his qualities, and mapped out a strategy around those qualities. They failed to do that. The plan was one, irrespective of the strength and quality of Navarrete, we are coming in to knock you, and that was a huge mistake.
And prior to this bout, Isaac Dugbe, I listened to his interview on the BBC, and all that he was talking about was the titles he has won, and also was talking about where he comes from here in Ghana and his association with the British. There was nothing like a mention of Navarrete, how well he has monitored his opponent going into the bout. And after the bout, he mentioned that he underrated Navarrete, and that was ill-prepared. And his father also mentioned him, and that's so unacceptable. Yes. Because, I mean, this is a world title. It's not like you child's play.
He mentioned it after, you know, mastering what remained of his strength to shout through in the host. He proceeded to say that they underestimated Navarrete.
How can you do that?
And, you know, my stomach churned, because you don't do that at that level. I felt that, yes, it was honest, but it was bad PR. It was bad PR because boxing is serious business. He just signed on to Bob Arum's top rank. And if they hear you say that you underestimated your opponent, it raises questions about your seriousness. This is a
world title
fight. You don't underestimate your opponent. Look, it's difficult to climb to the top, but staying at the top requires more. It doesn't take the same effort that took you to the top to stay at the top. You need to double your effort. And so to get to the top and say that you underestimated an opponent, no matter how terrible you felt that opponent may be, you simply don't underestimate an opponent. It's not done anywhere. We've seen it. We've seen fighters go into bout thinking that they were going to win and, you know, go out there and get shockers. And you could tell that Isaac Dugbe was shocked
he was very
at the performance of Emmanuel Navarrete. You know, during the fight, and post-fight, in his post-match, he mentioned it. I think that it wasn't good enough. I think that it's marks of a certain level of inexperience with regards to his team, his training team especially. And I mentioned immediately that, look, it's time for perhaps his father to hand over to a more experienced trainer, and maybe he's going to take that step.
Hans, now moving forward,
yeah,
if you were in the camp of Isaac Dugbe, what would be your advice? Should we look at immediate opportunities, or probably maybe take some time off and recover from this?
He has to take time off, reflect, look at the things that he did wrong. And one of the things that he must not do immediately is to take a rematch. No, that would be a huge mistake. One, because of the gulf in class, the huge disparity in the level of performance that he saw. It wasn't a close fight. If it was a close fight, I'd advise that he goes back immediately. But that was a dominant performance by Emmanuel Navarrete. He battered Isaac Dugbe. And so it wouldn't make sense to go straight for the rematch. Take a back seat, reflect, take 1 or 2 fights, build up his confidence, because that beating will take a psychological toll. Bulk up mentally, bulk up psychologically, and then when the time is right, they would know. When the time is right, they can tell from Dugbe's own performance, and also crucially monitor Navarrete's performance moving forward.
Okay.
You know, watch his performance, watch a lot of his clips, map out a strategy, and go reclaim the title if he still has it.
Hans, thanks so much for joining me. So
Pleasure.
that was my colleague Hans Mensando taking us through what happened over the weekend, and the prospects for Isaac Dugbe. Was just unfortunate he lost it the way he lost the bout over the weekend, but still, neho. Thanks so much for joining us. We are back tomorrow with more sports. I'm Benedict Owusu.